Hello, welcome to my side of the mountain. Today we are upcycling a plastic jug that will be the hard liner for this crocheted Easter basket. The hard liner has a fabric liner on the inside and a plastic handle that is crocheted, has a cute little bow. You can add a drop over a lace edge or not. I'll place all the tutorial links for those baskets down below. So let's get down to business on making the liner for this basket that we'll make into an Easter basket. It will have a fabric liner. We're using the half star crochet stitch. Now, the easiest way is to take a bleach jug that is 2.53 quarts. If you use a base of 4 half double crochet rounds and you started with a base of 10, it should fit holding 2 strands of worsted weight yarn. It should fit, no problems. So we're going to make a mark approximately a ½ inch lower than where the basket comes up to. So I'm marking right there, but then I'm going to place another mark below that, a ½ inch. So that's 3 3/4 of an inch. I'm taking off the label. And then I need to, I should have probably done this beforehand to get all of the ickies off the basket, but I'm going to go ahead and make my marks all the way around the circumference of the the bleach jug, the circumference of the bleach jug, 3½ inches. And then I'll just use some utility scissors to cut the bottom off, and then I'll have a base. You could also use a utility knife or box cutter. Utility scissors or kitchen shears do such a good job of cutting around the jug to make a base, making a perfect liner, a hard liner for your basket. Okay, so it fits perfect. It's a perfect fit. I will have a crochet tutorial on how to make this basket. I'll put the description down below. Now I need to make a handle. So I'm going to measure a ½ inch on the other side of the jug, and I will cut that off with those same utility scissors. Now you do have to concentrate a little bit to stay in the lines. Now cut off those sharp edges and then measure, and it's about 14 inches long. If you want a shorter handle, you can go 13 inches, but I went 14 inches long. I like that. It's going to be a good fit. Now next, we need a little bit of crochet in this tutorial, so I want to show you how to crochet the edge on this basket. So I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the beginning of the first stitch of that previous round. But I'm going to drop my main color and pull up a contrasting white color. I want to show you how to crochet a drop over edge. But first I need to make a single crochet base. Now this single crochet base is a little bit tough. That chain 1 space is just a little bit tight. But just dig your crochet hook in, get that single crochet in there, and then single crochet in the next stitch or the next space. And that one is an easy one because there's a larger opening, but then this one is tight. Just dig in there, get that stitch in there, just work it in. There we go. And it might take a little bit of time for you to get this row of single crochet stitches around. I'll speed up the camera, get to the end. Even with the camera going a little faster, it still takes some time. There should have been 40 stitches because we had a base of 40. We're at the end. Now we're going to bypass the chain 1 and join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet stitch. There we have a nice base. Now we are going to drop 1 strand of yarn. We're using a K crochet hook, but we're going to drop 1 strand and then pick up and use an H or 5.0. We're dropping out that K hook, and now we're going to use a 5.0 millimeter hook or an H. Tighten down the 2 strands and then turn. All right, now we're going to be executing stitches in the back loop only after we execute that first single crochet. All right, so chain 1 and then make a single crochet. Really, you could make that single crochet in the back loop only. Not sure why I didn't do that. Now we're going to chain 3, skip a single crochet stitch, and then single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. And we have a chain arch. All right. Chain 3. And skip a stitch. And single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. All right. Chain 3. Skip a stitch. And single crochet in the back loop only. Skip that stitch. Single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. Chain 3, skip a stitch, but let's see how that looks. This is going to create a drop over edge on your basket. It's very beautiful. We'll be placing a 5 double crochet shell in every other chain 3 arch. So I went off camera and I executed this chain 3 single crochet in the back loop only. I am at the last stitch here, and unfortunately I have a split stitch and I don't see it yet. So this is my last chain 3, and I'm joining to the first single crochet made, and I split my yarn again. My old eyes didn't catch that until I watched it on video. So then I'm going to slip stitch into the first chain of the next chain and then slip stitch into this second chain so that I'm at the middle of that chain 3 arch. All right, chain 1 and single crochet in this chain 3 space. You can go under that whole chain or you can go in that chain 3 space. Now chain 1 and execute a 5 double crochet shell. So 5 double crochets under that chain 3 space. 3, 4, 5. Chain 1, and single crochet, chain 1, 5 double crochet shell, 3, 4, and 5, and a chain 1, and a single crochet next. Isn't that looking pretty? All right, let's execute another single crochet. Let's turn it around and look. And see, there you have the shell edge is dropping over, and it's a nice addition to this little Easter basket. All right, so I went off camera and I finished. I have one more 5 double crochet shell to finish. So you need an even amount of shell. Excuse me, you need an even amount of chain 3 spaces, which will give you an even amount of shells, but this is our last 5 double crochet shell. So we have one more double crochet to make. Chain 1 and join to this single crochet. End off. We join with a slip stitch, end off. Now we have a few ends to weave in. Yep, we're going to, a few. Just take your yarn needle and work those ends in. Now next, let's see how this fits on the base of our plastic liner. I think it's going to be a great fit. Looks very nice. It's very nice. Now, let's add some fabric. This adorable fabric that I picked up at Goodwill for $1.99. I got 2 yards. And just place the basket on the fabric and eyeball it and cut about 6 to 7 inches around the basket. Just place it in the center and cut 6 to 7 inches around. Next, place the center of the fabric right over top of the basket and then shove it down inside. Now this is an easy technique. There's no sewing needed, as you just work the fabric around, making sure that it is evenly placed all around the edges of the basket, holding the fabric down on the inside, making sure it's being placed across the whole bottom of the basket. And there it is. It's very evenly placed. Might fuss with it just a little bit. Sometimes you can put something heavy like a large paperweight in the middle to keep that fabric seated in the very center. Now I made that fabric circumference rather large, so I'm using my craft scissors, which are not the sharpest craft scissors. I'm going to trim just a tad bit of this off. Now there will be a second trim later on. This is just because it's sticking out and there's a lot of bulky fabric here, and I want to go through and just trim this off a little bit. And some spots don't need that to be trimmed, but I think it will make things easier if I trim off those longer portions that are sticking out there. It doesn't have to be neat. Just go ahead and get rid of that. So it looks nice. I think the fabric is even. So the next thing we need to work on is crocheting around the handle portion that we cut out. Remember that 1/2 inch piece that we cut off? It was 14 inches long. Now this is a little finagly. It's a little difficult. You'll need to step back to some of your beginning learning how to crochet steps. Now it took me a while to get that yarn around, and I'm just going to go through the loops one at a time. It was a little bit hard, but once you get the first single crochet around that piece of plastic, it gets easier. It's a combination of holding on to the plastic and maneuvering the yarn and the hook, and you'll get the hang of it. It's rather easy. Now you want your V's to sit at the top or in the very center top of the handle. All right, let's continue to single crochet around this plastic strip that will be the handle for your Easter basket. There isn't a set amount of stitches. You'll just be holding 2 strands of yarn using your K crochet hook and single crochet around that plastic handle, leaving approximately 1.5 inches on either end that you don't place a single crochet on. So 1.5 inches on either end. As you can tell, I'm speeding up the camera. This was one of the hardest things when making this Easter basket, was crocheting around the plastic. And as you can see, I'm getting close to the end, so I have slowed down just a tad bit. And when I got close to the end, it was a little bit hard because the plastic piece kept wanting to pop out of my left hand. So there we go. All right. And we're back to beginning steps of putting the hook through each loop one at a time because it's easier that way. All right, let's straighten all this up. One more. right, I think that will do. That looks good. I need those plastic pieces to extend down into the sides of the basket. That's how I'm going to hook it to the side of the basket. All right, let's end off and straighten up the V ridge. I want that V ridge at the top. Straighten all that up. Okay, now I'm going to cut the yarn tails the length of the handle. And I'm going to place some hot glue at the very end and then glue those yarn tails down. Be careful, do not burn yourself on this step. All right, both ends have been glued down. This will also give a little bit more of an area and surface to glue to the inside of that basket. All right, I know I'm figuring out where I want the handle placed. All right, that looks good to me. So I'm pulling up this piece of fabric and I'm going to trim out a large portion of that fabric. I'm going to leave approximately an inch to an inch and a half. It does not have to be perfect. An inch to an inch and a half from the rim. I want an inch to an inch and a half left. Now I'm going to tuck that inch to an inch and a half to the inside. And the basket handle is going to stick right down in that area. And I'm going to glue the handle in first, and then that piece of fabric will just fold in and glue to the front of the handle. Now, I made a mistake. I should have just put glue on the handle and stuck it in there and then glued the fabric. I do that the second go around, but this time I thought, oh, I'll just put glue inside the basket. Well, that created a little bit of trouble. Not too much trouble, but a little bit of trouble. You'll see in just a moment my glue grabbed hold of the fabric and I had to work it out of there, and oh, there it went. Huh. Okay, so I'm going to hold that back long enough to put my handle yarn side to the plastic side. That yarn, and you've got to hold it for a while, I'm telling you. It's not, you can't just pull it away, you know, it's hot glue. All right, so now I'm going to do the exact opposite side, and right there is where I want to cut my fabric out. Okay, so I think I'm going to cut back a little bit more than I did the first time. I don't think it's going to hurt me to have a shorter amount. So that's what, about an inch or 3/4 of an inch. And like I said, this time I am going to put the glue on the handle. There we go. That's where I want it. I'm going to gently hold everything in its spot. Put a generous amount of glue on the handle. And put this in place. Now, you could use a staple gun if you wanted, or a stapler. I have done this sort of technique, and I've used a stapler before, and that works. But I felt since we were using glue, we just might as well use glue. Now, I'll quickly make sure that the fabric is still in place by putting my hand down in the middle, make sure the fabric is flat. And then I start with at the handle portion. I'll fold in that piece that I cut so that it fits right in front of the handle. I'll hold it in place, and then I'll put glue on this side of the handle, and then push that folded piece right up in front, making sure it's right under the crocheted area. Now, don't burn yourself. All right, So I have that one side established. And I'm going to move to the opposite side, folding down the cut edge, placing it under the yarn portion, making sure it's a good fit, and then gluing, adding hot glue to the handle, the plastic part, not on the crochet part. And then putting it doesn't take a lot of glue, and then putting the fabric right on that glue, holding that in place. There we go. Now we're ready to glue these edges down. And that's pretty easy, actually. You might feel like it's a really fussy job, but keep checking to make sure that the fabric is flush on the bottom, that it is still flat on the bottom. So fold over that edge where you had cut that portion. And you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. The fabric is where I want it. I just lift it up, and right up next to the edge, the top edge of the plastic liner, I just place 2 lines of glue. And then I pull the fabric down, hold it in place, fold under that raw edge where I had trimmed out for the handle, work my way around the basket, and I just keep adding glue. 2 lines of glue is good enough, and pulling the edges over and gluing them in place. Keep going all the way around the basket, remembering that when you get to the edge right beside the handle, you'll want to fold that fabric piece to the inside or fold it under. You'll see what I'm doing right here. There we go. Folding that under and making sure the glue gets that little portion. And the same for this side of the handle. Now don't worry that there are overlapping pieces that are not being glued as you place these 2 lines of glue, because we will go back through and we will fix that. And you can see I folded under that edge right by the handle. I'm going to speed the camera up just a little bit, but remember, make sure the inside is flush at the bottom. So keep checking that portion, and we're at the last bit on the handle. It's folded under, and I was afraid that the glue wouldn't catch it, so I'm just going to place a line of glue right there to make sure that's folded under. Now that looks really, really good. I like the way that looks, but I have all of this extra bulk, and I have pieces that still need to be glued. Just go back through and check. You can't have too much glue on this project. There we go. Now again, I'm taking my craft scissors that are not very sharp, and I'm trimming off the excess again. That will help me place my glue gun in those areas that need just a little bit more glue. Okay, it's fairly even. It's not the best, and you can see after I've trimmed it off that some of those pieces are poking up, and because they didn't get glue. So here's your chance to go back through and glue those edges down. Just stick your glue gun down in there and glue it all the way around. Don't burn yourself. I've burnt myself a few times right here at this area. Just keep making sure that everything is glued and flat. There you go. All right. It's looking good. I like the way this looks. I love those Easter eggs on that fabric, and it says Happy Easter on a periodic egg. Let's see how the basket fits around this now that we have fabric, we have a handle. Let's see how this looks. All right, I have shaped it. Now, it's looking pretty good. I like it. I like having a little bit of that fabric. Well, you can do what you want. If you would like, you can take the glue gun and glue that all in place. I'm choosing not to. I may want to put a different basket there. And I like the fabric poking up, but I also like having just the basket show and the fabric not sticking up. And then just go through and straighten up your shells a little. Just make everything look nice and neat. And there you have a beautiful basket. And that stitch on the side of the basket is the half-star stitch. I'll put a link below on how to do the half-star stitch. Now fill your basket with some beautiful eggs, and you have a beautiful home decor piece, or you have the cutest little basket for the children to gather eggs with on Easter Sunday morning. Well, it was so good to have you on my side of the mountain. I love making crochet and craft tutorials. I hope you will follow my channel, like and subscribe to see more tutorials and exciting things that happen on my side of the mountain. It's always wonderful to have you. Please come back again soon. Bye.